Hi everybody, this is Daryl. Just coming on today to talk a little bit more about the Overwhelm stress and adrenal workshop that I'm doing next Monday, which is July 3rd at 1 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern. So I wanted to talk about some real life situations that come up around stress, overwhelm, and adrenals. Just to give you a little idea, if you're having some level of emotional issues in your life, with your family, with your business, with your spouse, then this can impact your adrenals quite a lot. And I just wanted to give a bunch of emotional reasons why your adrenals start to shut down, why they get fatigued, and why you feel a lack of energy. And sometimes we don't give a shit after a while because our energy is so depleted. We have interactions with so many different people that really wear us down. So I'm just going to go over the list of emotional reasons why you might have issues in your adrenals and why I think you should show up for this workshop next Monday. So the first one is burning yourself out. So a lot of people I know, especially if you're in a business and especially if you're trying something new, we are trying to do too many things at once and we start to get ourselves burnt out and we start to run on empty. So what happens is the typical person that has adrenal issues or overwhelm fatigue, they are running around like a squirrel that are trying to do 10, 20 different things at once. And what happens when we do that is that our nervous system, our endocrine system, says to us, WTF, what the heck are you doing to me? And it shuts down. So that actually happened to me it actually started in November when I started working with a new coach. And in February, I totally burned myself out. And at that time, I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a fuck about anything. And I just wanted to go and curl up on a beach and not see anybody for 2 months. And that's pretty much what I did. And what happens is that there was a lot of warning signs for that. I was in too many projects. So if you're in too many projects, that's a warning sign that you're going to have adrenal fatigue and stress and overwhelm. You're trying to do too much. So you're working 12 to 16-hour days, overwhelmed, not getting enough sleep. You're not eating right. So just be careful about how much energy you're giving out, because that's going to turn into some level of stress, overwhelm, and your adrenals are going to start to get fatigued, and at some point you will not care about anything and you'll just go blah with no energy. So I don't want that to happen to you. So what happens when you have emotional depletion? So what that means is that you are being over responsible in your home, in your relationship, in your business, and it doesn't feel safe. And so you start to get burnt out and running on empty. So I'm going to give you 3 places where this might happen. So, for example, you are in a relationship with somebody and your spouse, your partner, your wife, husband has given you a lot of responsibility in the relationship to look after the family, to pay the bills, do whatever. And what happens, this spouse starts to come at you and starts to try to pull the rug from underneath you. So what this spouse will start to do, if you're looking after the bills, why didn't you pay this bill? Why didn't you pay that bill? So they'll start to pick at you because they've decided that you're responsible for the household. The other spouse will start to pick at you and start to pick at your self-esteem, start to pick at your belief in yourself, and your confidence will go down. So there's a lot of people that I've known and I've worked with that they have a spouse that gives them a lot of responsibility in the home, and then in the home it doesn't feel safe because they go around and they start looking at every friggin' thing that they are doing and they start picking at it. So if you're in a situation like that in your household, then what's probably happened is that your stress and your overwhelm is quite high, and it's probably affecting your adrenals, and your nervous system is not feeling safe, and you don't feel that you have any support around you. So that's in the home. Number 2 place that might show up is, say for instance, you grew up in a very unstable household where you had mental illness for somebody in the family, one of your parents, maybe there was some drug dependence, alcohol dependence. So what happens in that situation is that you get stressed and you get overwhelmed and your adrenals start to get fatigued because you're in an environment with a parent, with somebody in the family that doesn't, my collar's up, that somebody does not make you feel safe. So for example, I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, I had two alcoholic parents. And my dad would come home. You didn't know when he was coming home, and you didn't know what temper he was going to throw at you. So what happened is that everything was good until 4 o'clock, and then between 5 and 8, depending on when he would come home, because sometimes he wouldn't come home, you would start to get your nervous system would get hot wired for: is he in a good mood? Is he in a bad mood? Is he in a good mood? Is he in a bad mood? So all the kids were like this between 4 and 8 o'clock until we figured out, is he drinking, or is he in a bad mood, a good mood? So what that happens is that your nervous system is triggered, and it goes into overwhelm, and so that shows up in adrenal fatigue. So if that happened as a kid, what that happens is that sometimes we get into similar situations and similar relationships in work, and we can get triggered quite easily because of what has happened in our childhood. So just be aware that something in your childhood might be triggering your adrenals and your stress and overwhelm in today, based on something that made you feel unsafe and unsupported in your household when you're a kid. So there could be a possibility that there's an issue in your adrenals. Number 3 is more of the same length. So if you have abusive parents, abusive spouse, abusive somebody that's close to you, they're creating an unsafe environment for you. So your nervous system's hot wired for what the frig is going to happen today. So what happens is that your adrenals get fatigued with all of this. When you have adrenal fatigue, you're secreting cortisol, and you're on adrenaline a lot, and you're into that stress hormone. So if you're dealing with an abusive parent, spouse, anybody around you that's close, you don't know what they're going to do to you. So whether it's going to come out of their mouths, whether it's going to be a stare, whether it's going to be some sort of physical something that they're going to throw at you, that your system is overloaded with this rush of adrenaline, this rush of adrenals, a rush of the stress hormone cortisol. So sometimes, when you're dealing with that in your household or your relationship or your business, you can get triggered quite easily outside the home. So that's why it's important to look at your adrenals to see if there's fatigue, because if you're hot wired to feel overwhelmed and stress, just be aware that something is there. So another place that it actually shows up a lot is that if you have a lot of resentment and a lot of rage. So looking back at the 3 examples that I gave you, if you have a lot of unresolved resentment, rage towards your spouse or towards a family member, towards a parent, what that does, it actually sits in your nervous system, and if you don't allow yourself to release that, then it can cause issues in your adrenals, and it can cause adrenal fatigue based on the emotional storage of all of that resentment and rage. So for my own example, that was one of my biggest issues when I was dealing with my resentment and rage towards my father and my family, with what we were dealing with when we were growing up, because they were both alcoholics. And so I'm just taking my socks off, it's getting hot in here. So I had to deal with a lot of that resentment and rage. And one of the things that comes up is that a lot of people that have resentment and rage feel like they're constantly at work. They're constantly at work. They're constantly trying to be successful. They're constantly trying to be recognized. They're constantly trying to seek that attention in their life. And what happens is that the resentment, the rage starts to build up because nobody sees them and nobody's aware of them. Nobody actually sees what they're doing. They're not recognizing them. So what happens is that there's a buildup of rage, a buildup of resentment inside of your nervous system, inside of your adrenals, and you have to find a way to release that. So that's another reason why I wanted to do the workshop, because rage and resentment are huge for a lot of people. And if you're carrying around all of that rage because you're not being recognized for yourself in relationships, in friendships, in your business, and you feel like you're constantly working, like you feel like you're a hamster on a wheel, then your adrenals are getting so overloaded with this secretion of cortisol, and you're stressed and overwhelmed probably most of the time. I want to go back a little bit about talking about burnout. And the big thing about burnout is that at some point, when you get burnt out, like I did, you don't give a shit about anything. Who cares about showing up in your relationships, showing up in your business, showing up in anything, because you have this indifferent attitude. And what happens is that if you're constantly trying to get recognized and get work done, and you have like 20 projects, and it's like you're going and going and going and going, that really causes your nervous system to say, what the frig are you doing to me? And at some point, your nervous system's going, wah, 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 we're going to stop right now. And at that time, you get into this place that you don't give two shits about anything, that you don't care about yourself, you don't care about your business, you don't care about your relationships, you don't care about anything, and you just go into that flatline place. Because what happens for a lot of people is that if you're growing up in this idea that you need to be perfect, so you have this perfectionist quality inside of you, that you need to prove something to someone or prove something to yourself, what happens with that idea, that if you're in that perfectionist place, is that nothing will be satisfying to you, because you're always trying to prove something. What usually is going on in the background is that you're trying to prove a belief system. So, for example, if you didn't feel safe when you were growing up, and you had to prove something to your dad or your mom that you were a good kid, a good girl, a good boy, that you always had great marks, that it was a never-ending battle to keep up with what they wanted from you. So with all of that, I see a lot of people now is that they get to one success and they're not happy with it, and they go after another success and they're racing up this hill. So if you feel that you're racing up a mountain and you're like, oh, I'm almost there, I'm almost there, I'm almost there. And when you get there, you're like, oh, I gotta go more, I gotta go more. Then what I hear is that you're stressed, overwhelmed, your adrenals are going, what the heck are you doing to me? And your ideal based on trying to be perfect for somebody else, probably a family member, most likely a parent, because we're always trying to prove something to our parents, is causing your nervous system to get overloaded, and you get sick because of all of this. The other thing that happens with a lot of people with adrenal issues that are overwhelmed and stressed is, frankly, you have control issues. You want to control everything. You're an authority freak. You want to control everything, because what's happened for a lot of you is that you didn't have a stable household growing up, and you didn't feel safe and supported. So your way of holding on to some sort of safety and control is to try to dominate your environment. And what that usually comes from is somebody in your past, most like a parent or somebody, family member, that made you feel safe. So a lot of people that have adrenal issues, there's an emotional, they're trying to control a lot. They're trying to dominate everything because they want everything to feel safe. They don't want anything out of the ordinary to show up, because they live in a glass house. So when you live in a glass house, somebody throws a rock, the house dismantles, and what happens is that you feel very vulnerable because of some unresolved PTSD issue with somebody in the background of your life. So that's what happened with me because of some unresolved post-traumatic stress syndrome and some deaths in my family, that I wanted to control every friggin' thing around me because I didn't trust life and I didn't trust what was out there. So what happened was that I started to get really overwhelmed, and my adrenals and my stress and overwhelm just got so high that I was trying to control everything: relationships, friendships, what was in my environment, what was at my work. And at some point, my whole nervous system just broke down, because one of the things that comes up with people that have come from like crazy situations, crazy childhoods, is that they want to control. And because they want to control all the time, they don't know how to relax and they don't know how to turn everything off. So I had to learn how to turn off my nervous system so I could relax and be calm and be ease. And a lot of the clients that show up and work with me don't know how to relax because their nervous system is on all the time, because they had to be on because they didn't feel safe at home. They don't feel safe with their partner. They don't feel safe with their kids. They don't feel safe with their parents. So they've just turned their nervous system on all the time that they don't even know how to turn it off. So this training is going to allow your adrenals to switch off, turn down, so that you can feel good about yourself, and it's not going to cause you to put on weight. Because if you have all of this cortisol going through your body, you put on weight because your nervous system never shuts off. So give me some give me some love, give me some comments below. I'd love to hear from you, because this is really relevant for a lot of you, because I know that a lot of you are going through a lot of stress and overwhelm, and I'm just want to give some really specific places where the overwhelm and the stress is really causing your adrenals to feel really overloaded. And I'm wanting to do this workshop for you because I really want to see you in the best place. So just a quick reminder, the workshop is going to be next week, and I'll put the links below. I have the workshop, which is really cool that you show up. It's going to be 75 to 90 minutes long. We're going to work on at one specific thing that is freaking you out, that is not making you feel safe, and we're going to work on that between 75 and 90 minutes in this group setting. I don't even have to know what the issue is. As long as you know what the issue is, I don't even have to actually know what it is, and we'll still release it, which is really cool. And I have a private group for all of you, and I'd love to have you, because it's really an important, relevant thing, because all the clients that I work with have issues around stress and overwhelm. They don't know how to relax. They don't know how to shut off, and they're always on in their nervous system, and they don't know how to shut off. So let me tell you about some things of what might happen in your right adrenal. The thing that shows up in your right adrenal is you're at a loss. So what that means is that you're saying in your head, it's like, what the fuck? You know, it's like, what can I do? Like you're totally at a loss in your relationship, in your business. You don't know where to find the money. You don't know where to get the clients. In your relationship, you're like, I don't know what to do with this person. I don't know what to do with myself in this relationship. Same with your friendships, any type of relationship. And you feel like there's no way out. So if you're having those feelings, it usually shows up in your right adrenals. And if you're having left adrenal problems, is that you can't and won't trust yourself. So what that means is that you don't trust the choices that you're making in your personal life, in your professional life, and you're always going to a coach. You're always going to the spouse. You're always going to the friend. It's like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think I should do? Do you think I should do this type of thing in my business? Do you think I should go down this path? Because you don't trust your own decisions. And one of the things that happens if you don't trust yourself, then that generally is unresolved emotional issues, trauma in your background, So if you have people like your parents or somebody like a family member that is like an alcoholic, drug user, mental health issue, it's always like you're walking around eggshells because you didn't trust your decisions, and if you did a decision, then there was somebody there to hurt you and say it's the wrong decision. So you're always in these situations where you felt really unsafe. So you grew up and you didn't trust your intuition and what you really thought because there was always somebody there to tell you otherwise, and they weren't safe for you. So that's what happens when your right adrenals get really overwhelmed, is that you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your decisions. And you get in and work with a lot of coaches, and you think, so if you're working with coaches or people, you put a lot of emphasis on what they think, and you still don't trust your intuition and what you really want. So if that's the case, I'd love that you show up for this adrenal workshop, this overwhelm and stress workshop. We'll work on one specific place for you, and so that you can start to move forward in a see, my thing when I work with people, I want you to move forward fast, quick, safe, easy, and safe. It's all about feeling safe, supported. And if you don't feel safe and supported, you're not going to move towards your dreams. You're not going to move towards your life purpose. You're not going to move towards those big goals that you have. You're not going to get out of a relationship. You're not going to get out of a situation that you are in and it's not necessarily happy if you don't feel safe and supported. And because your adrenals are so overloaded, you get triggered so much throughout the day that you don't even have time to relax. You don't have time to take a breath and say, what's the best decision for me? Because you don't trust your own decisions, because you're bombarded with all of the stimulus that really affects your overwhelm, really affects your stress, and it actually fatigues your adrenals. So if there's any questions, I'd love to hear them. I'd like to get your feedback. Put them below. I'd love to hear them. If this is relevant to you, if this is relevant to a friend that you know, if this is relevant to somebody around you that you're like, holy shit, you need to watch this, then, click share. I want to help as many people as possible because I've been doing this work because I had a shitload of, I'm cursing a lot, shitload of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome from my childhood, alcoholic parents that didn't make us feel safe and supported, and a lot of death. So it all caused a lot of issues for me over my lifetime, and it really caused me to feel unsafe and supported, and I started to do too much. I was trying to prove myself too much, and I felt that it caused my adrenals to go, okay, see you later. I'm gonna take a break. We're gonna crash this computer, and I burnt myself out. The last time was in February. So it's really relevant. It's really important. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them below. If you want to private message me, that's really cool. I will put the link in here about how to sign up. So there's two choices. There's a 1 o'clock and there's a 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight workshop. You can come to either one of them. We're going to have a private Facebook group. And then what's going to happen is that if you really want to dive in, so this is for fast starters, you're like, you want to actually dive in and work with me one-on-one, I'm going to give you that option. And there's a PayPal link there as well. So there's a lot of people that have chosen that option because they know how relevant this is, because it's blocking testing their best life, their ability to make money, the life that they want, the relationship they want. And so they understand that this is really relevant and important to them. So I'm giving you those two options. Trust your intuition on this and pick the one that is going to best serve you, because I'm going to show up for you. And I'm here to help you, because I don't want you to be in my situation that I started to work on myself at 42. So, and it's been 6 years, and it's 6 years. I don't want you to have that. So I want you to fast track some of the healing that you need to do, some of the things that you need to work through. I want to fast track you through it and start the process with you in this workshop. And I would just love to have you show up for that. We're going to work on these in the private Facebook group, and I'm going to help you get that first level of healing, that first level of success, that first level of a release from all of this. Because if your adrenals are active all the time, you're stressed out all the time, and you don't know how to shut it off. And I'm going to help you shut that down so that you can feel calm and safe again. So this is Daryl Stewart, wishing you a wonderful afternoon, evening, day, wherever you're at.